I'm your wife, but I can't bear this burden with you. The least I can do is be more understanding when it comes to your work." He relaxed, evidently relieved. "You're the best, darling. You wouldn't like me if I weren't, right?" She pulled her hand out of his and glanced at his phone. She saw a conversation on the screen. It was short, but there was a photo among the sentences. It was too far for her to get a clear look at the photo, but she soon received the image on her phone. It was a selfie Mia had taken of herself in a black lace nightgown. The angle was perfect, and her expression was saucy enough to make any man hard. She was alluring and pretty. It was definitely more seductive than someone as plain as Elena could ever be. She supposed it made sense that Aaron would choose to abandon her to be with Mia. Then again, perhaps he'd been so busy having a family with Mia that he'd forgotten how crazy he'd been for Elena when they were newlyweds. They would do the deed 4 or 5 times a night before continuing the following morning. However, he'd started controlling himself after a pregnancy scare. Her period had been a week late once, and he'd stopped going wild over her, even with protection that he claimed he had to restrain himself because he didn't want her to get pregnant. He didn't want a child to come into the picture. Now Elena knew the truth. Aaron's restraint hadn't been due to his fear of getting her pregnant. He'd only been saving his energy for Mia. She lowered her lashes, concealing the mockery in her eyes. Then, she grabbed her bag and left Reed Tower. She got into her car and circled the building. However, instead of leaving, she parked her car elsewhere before taking a cab back to Reed Tower. Before she got close, she saw Aaron hurrying to a mixed-use office complex opposite Reed Tower. He looked like he was in a rush. Elena's expression shifted. She suddenly remembered that he had an apartment unit there. He'd bought it when they were still dating. It was for them to rest there after lunch because he was worried the office wouldn't be conducive for Anna. In hindsight, Aaron had probably lied about leaving Reed Tower to pick her up because he'd heard his employees mentioning that they'd seen her. In truth, he'd been heading to the complex across the road for a date with Mia. He'd had no choice but to delay his plans because Elena had suddenly shown up. Now that she was gone, he could head over there to be with Mia. He was truly in a rush. Despite already making up her mind about leaving, Elena still felt horrible. She clutched her chest with her right hand, and the blood drained from her face. She almost broke out in a cold sweat. "Are you okay, miss? Do you feel unwell? Should I take you to the hospital?" The cab driver asked anxiously. "The hospital?" Yes, she should head to the hospital since she was feeling ill, and she needed someone to be with her. She took a deep breath to calm down before pulling out her phone and calling Aaron. "My chest suddenly hurts, Aaron. Feel sick. Can you come home and take me to the hospital?" Aaron stopped on the sidewalk nearby after receiving Elena's call. His gaze traveled between the complex ahead of him and Reed Corporation behind him, weighing his choices. Ahead of him was his apartment, where Mia waited for him. Despite already giving birth to their child, she remained as gentle yet insatiable as before. Behind him stood Reed Corporation, the company he and Elena had established together. It carried countless memories of their time together. It was a difficult choice that made Aaron hesitate, but only briefly. He said, "I'm really busy now, Elena. Be good and head to the hospital yourself, okay? Or you can ask Dr. Jones." Elena hung up without waiting for him to finish. She didn't need to test him anymore, nor did it matter. When one needed to put on a mask to test the other person's love, the feeling itself lost its meaning. There was no point in clinging to it anymore. She put her phone on silent mode and stuffed it into her bag. Then, she got out of the cab and walked along the sidewalk outside Reed Tower. She traversed the city on foot. Now that she thought about it, she'd already been in this world for a decade. Throughout that time, she'd focused all her attention on Aaron. Her world had revolved around him, so she hadn't had the chance to take a good look at the city. She hadn't tried to get a feel of the virtual world the author of this book had created. Halston City was actually a beautiful place. She was leaving in 2 weeks, so it was high time she took in the sights. She didn't want to be lost for words and unable to describe anything about the place when she thought about it in the future. Elena wandered the city until past 10 p.m. When she returned, the house was still empty. She had many missed calls and unread messages but deleted them without reading or checking the caller ID. Then she went to the attic to retrieve some empty packing boxes. Once she was in her room, she started putting her things away. The first things she started with were her expensive designer bags and jewelry. She'd transmigrated into this book, so she couldn't bring any of these things with her. There was no way she would leave them for Aaron and Mia. She'd be much better off donating them, her shares and fixed assets, to the needy. She had a lawyer to handle everything for her anyway. Soon Elena filled one box. It contained the jewelry and bags she'd accumulated over the years. Some were gifts from Aaron, and others were purchases she had made herself. She texted Sean Quilton, her lawyer, and told him to drop by the following morning to take the things away. Then she washed up and headed to bed. She didn't know when Aaron returned, but he lay in bed with his arm around her when she woke up. She was revolted by the thought of being so close to him and instinctively pulled away. Aaron looked glumly at his empty arms. "I'm sorry, Elena. I didn't mean to leave you to head to the hospital alone. I was really busy yesterday. To make it up for you, I made you your favorite seafood bisque for breakfast. Can you forgive me this once? I'm also a victim. I've been so busy with work that I haven't had time to be with you." He really had a way with words. He could make it seem like she was the one to blame for him spending the night outside. Elena parted her lips to speak when her gaze landed on a provocative mark on Aaron's chest. It had been revealed when he'd lowered his head, making his collar fall open slightly. It looked fresh. It had probably been left there yesterday. She wondered how vigorously Mia had sucked to leave it there. Was Aaron aware of it? If he was, did he think of concealing it? Or did he think Elena was a fool who didn't have a mind of her own and would believe everything he said? Elena curled her lips slightly before saying softly, "Of course I'm not mad at you. You're only this busy for our family, right? I'm just used to being alone now. I was caught off guard when I sensed someone else in bed with me." That took Aaron aback. He suddenly recalled that he'd delayed his return home from a business trip for 3 days because his and Mia's child had fallen sick. His business trip had lasted 4 days, and he'd spent 3 days with Mia and the baby. He'd also stayed out last night to get his fill of Mia, so he and Elena hadn't slept in the same bed for 8 days. This made him feel guilty. It's definitely a lot busier running a company alone. Once I settle everything I have in hand, I'll take a long break so I can be with you, okay? There he was again, making the matter seem like it was her fault. Elena smiled coldly. "Sure. I'll wait for you." Aaron was pretty good in the kitchen. The seafood bisque tasted delicious, and he prepared a few other snacks to go with it. Elena managed to enjoy her meal despite having to endure his presence. He was relieved to see her eating happily and left for work when she was done. Shortly after, Sean arrived. Elena handed him the things she'd already packed before getting back to work. She and Aaron had gone through an amorous stage for 3 years before officially dating. Then they dated for 4 years before being married for 3. They'd accumulated quite a number of things after spending a decade together. Aside from the jewelry and bags Sean had already taken away, Elena still had to clear a wardrobe full of clothes and shoes. She also needed to get rid of vases, paintings, daily necessities, souvenirs from trips, and the gifts she and Aaron had given each other. She put away anything that belonged to her, whether bought by herself or Aaron. There were 14 days left until her disappearance, and she wanted to do it thoroughly. She wasn't even going to leave a shred of paper behind. Aaron wouldn't have anything of hers. Elena kept busy until noon. As she waited for her takeout to be delivered, she was surprised to see Aaron return home. The sudden downpour had drenched him, but he didn't bother drying himself. He ran straight to the bedroom, his expression ugly as he stopped before Elena. "Where's your wedding ring, darling? Did you lose it?" Had he already noticed? Elena suddenly felt a cruel vindication from being found out. "I didn't lose it, I sold it. I wanted to do some charity work, so I sold all the bags and jewelry you've ever given me. You know what it's like to go hungry and have no money, Aaron. I'm sure you won't resent me for doing this. You'll support me, won't you?" Aaron was taken aback by Elena's nonchalant tone. After a brief pause, he said hoarsely, "It's okay if you've gotten tired of your regular jewelry. We can buy new ones together someday. But the wedding ring." He got on one knee and held Elena's hand. From his pocket, he pulled a familiar blue box and placed it on her palm. "You can change all other jewelry, but the wedding ring is unique. I went all the way to South Florida to source the gem, and I designed and made the ring myself. It represents my love for you. You have to keep it with you at all times. If you don't, I'll give up everything, including my life, and go to the ends of the earth to get it back for you." His gaze was sincere and tender, and his hand was warm around hers.